Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to do another journey into another alien world. I want to really explore something unique and different, more so even though than the last one. I have something in mind in my own heart that I would like to go journey into, something that might help people understand this earth a little more. Because I do know that a lot of the times we kind of have a already predetermined idea what life is and what life should be. So going into different planets and different worlds helps us to kind of open our mind a little more to what is possible and what actually is life on this earth. Because we have a very kind of predetermined idea what that is. And when you look at things that say, well, that's not really alive, but is it not? So that's why I kind of want to leave that thought in my mind and allow Spirit to guide me to a planet that is kind of what I'm speaking of inside my own heart, to see what comes up, to see what that will look like. I'm being taken through circles of light, pulsating, and I'm just following this pulsating light. It's coming out toward me very fast, but it's also pulling me forward very fast. It's even more so than warp speed in a way. When you see the stars go by, it actually is. It's even more. It's like going from one galaxy to another with just a thought. It's so fast that you can't even see the blurring of the stars. You just see a pulsating of light. And it's like literally from one galaxy to another. And literally when I'm looking at a star, like the universal map, you could say, you can see how I'm going from one galaxy to another. So this planet is not close at all. If you look at the galaxy as a circle or a sphere, it's like I'm going to like the opposite side of that sphere. And they're showing me different options of how to get there. Like this, like it's simply, if you put a pinpoint on a sphere and then put another pinpoint on the opposite side of that sphere, how do you get there? What's the fastest ways of doing it? You just all kinds of different directions you can go in to get to the same point. And this is kind of what they're showing me. It's not just simply one direction. There's lots of directions you can do. But this one was around. It went around instead of direct straight line. And it was not even directly straight. It's not like as fast as possible a way to get there, but they say this is the way that I need to go. And that's exactly how it was worded. This is the way I need to go. So this is the way I'm going. This galaxy is nothing like I've seen before. It's different. How would you describe it? It's older, much, much, much older. That's for sure because, age is something that is hard to really determine, they say, but it just looks... You could say there's parts of it that have been utterly destroyed and other parts that haven't been. So it looks more chaotic, so to speak. It looks more places that it's not like a clean spiral. Like if you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, it's like a perfect spiral. It's beautiful. This is not a perfect spiral by any means. This is more like a really densely, like it's more like a big circle, but there's a lot of things that have happened to this galaxy, like whole areas that have been decimated by like supernovas and stuff like that, and obviously obvious scarring that we don't see in our own galaxy, like, or even at Andromeda galaxy, because we look at that galaxy, it looks like it's spotless. This one isn't spotless. It doesn't even have spirals in it anymore. Maybe at one time it did. There's telling me that this is a very, very ancient galaxy. It is much older than our own. But there's also worlds here that are ridiculously older than our own. It's almost incomprehensible how old some of the planets are compared to our own planet. Like, if you look at the life cycles of the planets, our planet would still be an infant. Barely even like it would say like a couple of days old compared to like 100 years old, for instance. If that's even not really accurate, they're saying. I'm just experiencing this right now because they're taking me to a spot that is it looks like there was a massive explosion, but they're telling me that this was not natural. This was accidental. And planets are like literally are broken and two, some of them. Like there's this like and it's actually really sad to see. It's like something like a Death Star would shoot part of it but missed. Like it's like it wasn't like the whole planet just blew up. It's like literally just parts of it have cracked open and blew apart, and the other ones are like it's just this whole area is in constant there was a massive explosion that happened, and the farther out the less damage is, but they're flying me into the center. This isn't quite what I had in mind, but they're telling me to be patient because this is important. And there's a flickering light in the center. It's super bright, and there's nothing around it at all. It's like nothing for like. It's almost like the size of our galaxy. There's nothing at all except this bright light in the middle. And everything around the outside of it has been decimated. And the farther out you go, the less decimated it is. But there is life still on the outer ridges of this galaxy. But the galaxy itself has been completely, utterly, what we would think, decimated. Like I would say about 90% of the life in this galaxy has been destroyed. Like, and about 50% of it has been turned to dust. And I'm flying into the center. As I get closer, there's like an echoing scream that comes out from this empty space. And I'm starting to see echoes of what once occurred. It's like the black hole in the center of this galaxy blew up. Does that make any sense at all? And decimated almost all of the galaxy and almost destroyed the whole thing because it got so big. It was so gigantic. And exploded. I don't even know how that's even possible, but there was a massive energy surge that came from the center of the galaxy that wiped out almost all the galaxy and almost all life. And there's still echoes of this here. And the closer I get to the center, which still is part, there's something about this. Is it an actual black hole? What is a black hole? This is questioning what a black hole is to me, because it is flickering light right now. And when you get closer to it, it's pushing you out. It's not pulling you in. So everything is pushed outward now. It's like almost like the black hole reversed itself. And I'm having a hard time getting closer to it, because everything it's like it's different in the spiritual realm, obviously, than the physical. But I'm moving closer to whatever this is. But it's the opposite of what a black hole should do. It literally got so big, it exploded, and now it reversed. Instead of pulling things into it, it basically was a massive explosion that created everything that was in it to go the opposite direction. And now it's, when the closer you get, it's actually still pushing light out from the center. This has nothing to do with what they're still telling me to be patient, so I have to be patient. They still want me to go further. And I'm going into this light, but it's pushing me out. Like even me as a spiritual being, I'm very long. Like it's almost like I'm just a strip of light. And I'm moving forward because it wants to push me outwards, so I'm constantly forcing my way in. But I'm still able to move forward. I end up coming to the center of this thing, and it's quiet here. This is on the energy side of things. It's an empty space with nothing in it, no light. And this light stops shining, stops pushing outward, and just flickers to nothing, and literally just turns to dust. It's like that. It's like it just dies. It's like it's done. There's no more energy being pushed out. There's just nothing. Except a black, empty, massive space of nothing. Because everything that was here was pushed outward to outward, so far away from the center that now, once it ceases to exist, literally the last bit of energy has been sent out, and now there's nothing. But there is something here. I'm not sure what that is yet, but I can feel it here. I can even see it. It's like a wave right now. And it because there's a wave, I can see that a wave is actually going around something that is dark. And I'm just experiencing this now, and then there's energy around it, and it's like, but it's not energy, it's darkness. But the wave itself is darkness, but has form to it because it's going around something. And there's a really weird light, like there's almost like there's a crack in something that's happening here. And it's like a rift from somewhere else is opening up. and there's a tear that's happening. And the tear gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's almost like, and then there's almost like there's hands that take it and rip it open. And there's all these, it's almost like, they're almost like bats actually that fly outwards. But they're not bats, they're just shaped like that. And this is all about energy, it's all about rebirth. And they're going in a circle and they're forming a black orb. It's a shiny black orb. And it's forming, and now it's starting to pull things back into itself again. Now it's like a black hole that is now formed into something. And now everything's being pulled into the center once more. And they want me to leave because it's time to leave. So I end up leaving this place before I'm not able to leave this place. It's starting to ramp up. And now I just go back to the outer edges of this galaxy. And it's like time speeds forward and it looks like a spiral galaxy. Like the galaxy itself is completely reborn. And there's a planet they want me to go to in this now spiral galaxy. And it looks quite vibrant. And I fly to the planet itself, and it's really rich, really green. But there's like there's almost like, it's like a mist all around the outside of the planet. So the blue sky doesn't shine through very well, if you could call it a blue sky. It's more like a grayish sky because it's always gray. Like you never see the actual atmosphere of the planet. But it would be blue. The atmosphere is blue, but it doesn't shine as blue as our blue atmosphere would be. And there's a cloud cover, like I say, a constant cloud cover here. It's very humid. Extremely humid. And I'm flying down into this humidity, like cloud formations that are in places thin but always cloudy everywhere. And I go down underneath and it's mist. It's almost like the constant mist. And sometimes the odd time there's a big, like a thunderstorm or storm that will open up the cloud just a tiny little bit, and you might get a glimpse of the sun to shine through. It's rare though. Doesn't happen very often. In the whole planet itself, there is no winter because it's covered in this cloud cover. And it's like a constant, like you go underneath, and some days there's always, the humidity would be like 100% all the time. No matter where you went in this planet, it was always humid. There is no desert on this planet at all. There is oceans, but it's mostly vegetation. Like there's more like what you would call a swamp would be an ocean. So there's vast swamps that go off for like thousands of miles in places, but they're full of vegetation, they're full of massive trees. There's an interesting life forms here. There's like very very colorful lizards and like amphibians and stuff like that. Some large, a lot of small ones though. They're almost like insects in a way, but it's very colorful. Like they're really bright colors, like greens and yellows and reds and blues. Very, very pretty. The trees are quite interesting. I wouldn't even call them, they're more like massive vines that go, they're trees, but they're different. Like you could have a tree that covered like 1,000 miles in a way, because its root systems are more dominant than the actual tree itself, because it doesn't really form into what you would call a regular tree. It creates like massive root systems that have greenery come from them. And it covers everything. Like it's like they're not really what you would call a tree. When you get down, they look like a forest, for instance. Then you get down into the space, and it's only short, big leaves on root systems. It's almost what it's like. And they're everywhere. They cover everything. Like what we would consider land. There is no land that we would say what we would call land. There is no, like, it's like these roots cover everything. Even the swamps. They're telling me there's an actual, if you were to go underneath the roots, there is a layer of water there, but it doesn't have any light barely. Very little light, but it does have some light. It's almost like there is very colorful light, fluorescent creatures down here. It's very pretty, but not really what you would consider intelligent life. But it is intelligent, but it's more like plants and different type of life forms with not really high intelligence. But there is larger creatures here that do prey on these. But do they prey on them? No, they actually don't. They breathe in their water, and the water is full of all kinds of nutrients. And that's how they live. And they just swim, and these creatures kind of attach themselves to this big, long creature. But the creature doesn't eat the other creatures. They just kind of like catch rides on them, and these bigger ones travel long distances, and these things kind of pop in and out. It's almost like a bus system. It's pretty funny. But I'm being taken somewhere, and there's other creatures here, and I'm being introduced to these. How would you describe this? It's like they have roots that go. No, it's more like they're kind of root. They are roots, and they grow out from the top of their head all the way to the feet, but they stand upright. And their eyes are yellow, but they are very much a plant. They tell me they're not a biological, like what would you consider like blood. They are very much plants, and they connect onto these roots with their tentacles, and they look almost like leaves. They can blend into the leaves, but so they pull nutrients from the rain and the plant itself, like these big root systems. But they're very highly intelligent. They actually have structures like buildings in a way. And they work with these big massive root systems to they connect onto them with their with the root systems, the small, like you could say tentacles to make it less weird, so it's easier to understand. They put the tentacles connected to the big roots, and they get these roots to change shape to create smaller roots, bigger roots, and they actually are taking me to this, they're showing me this, what you would call a city. But they're very much, when I'm looking at these creatures, they're not actual, like they're not like the lizards at all. They're basically they're like trees, and they're not even that. I don't know how to explain them, but they connect and talk to the roots of the planet. Like the planet itself is extremely interesting. There's very little what we would say mountains. It's more like water, and underneath the roots of these trees, but they're not trees because they don't really have trunks. So we would say the trunks are actually roots, but they really are the trunks of the trees, and they can create smaller ones, skinnier ones, and they're all full of leaves. Like the trunk will have literally a 2 or 3 foot leaf appear on it, but that's only like 6 inches above the trunk or the root of this tree itself. What's fascinating though is the way they communicate. They actually attach themselves to these roots, and these roots, which are like the life of the planet itself. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but these trees are listening to what they have to say. And they work together to create beautiful cities, lush. And none of them eat each other. They simply are able to live off the energy of the planet and the nutrients that the rain gives and the light gives. There is light here, but it's not like you would say sunlight. It's more like an overcast day, for instance. And it's always misting, and the mist itself has nutrients in it. And this is what they live off of. They literally go and they go upside down, really, and look up towards the sky, and they open themselves up to receive this rainwater in a way. And that's how they feed, and that's how they live. So they feed directly off the roots themselves, but they don't actually take and hurt it. It's kind of a symbiotic relationship. But they do communicate with each other, and they're very organized, and they care for their young. They're very loving, and they know that I'm here, and they like the idea that I'm willing to explore different realities, different aspects of life. So you look at the trees on the earth. Are they alive? They can't talk to us. These things don't necessarily talk, they think. So are trees alive? Do they communicate with each other? Do they love each other? Do they understand each other? Are they upset when other trees die around them? And the answer is, in a lot of the ways, yes. Trees sing to each other with vibrations and sounds. And when one dies, the other ones feel it. They can communicate with vibrations from long distances to each other as well. They try to help each other at times as best they can. They can hold vast knowledges of time that, like their roots, have the ability to tap into the earth itself. And they're able to absorb that understanding of what's around them for miles and miles and miles and miles. Because it's almost like the whole forest can communicate to each other. So it is able to pass on knowledge. So the oldest tree in the forest, for instance, would have vast knowledge of that forest itself. The things that lived in it, the people that walked through it, the things that were planted, things that, like cities even, if they're in the forest, or houses or whatever. And they do feel pain, believe it or not. They feel stress, they feel all these things. They do not have a voice that we recognize, but they do cry out. They cry out in a different way, though. And it's a lot of people that don't listen to that type of thing. They don't want to hear it. But if you really attune yourself to it, you can hear the forest speak to you. The question is, what would happen if we went to a planet like this? This is what they're saying to us as a human race. Would we consider those beings that are alive? Would we can even consider them worthy enough to, or would we just wipe them out as inferior to our own? There is no pollution. There's not even what we'd call life and death in the way that we interpret it. There is no killing. Just simply existing. There is a life and death cycle, like all things. But it seems to me that everything that exists on this planet exists in harmony with each other, and there's no, like how would you say, if you look at our world, they're asking me why is it that our world is in a constant state of killing each other and other things? We as a human race need to ask ourselves, why do animals kill each other? Why do we kill each other? Why is the world itself constantly killing each other? They're telling me that there's a solution to this puzzle. We might take thousands and thousands and thousands of years to be able to solve it. But there is a possibility that we could live in harmony with everything. If we choose to go down that path. But since we choose a path of destruction and chaos. Even the animals kill each other. But was that the way it always was? I want you to think about those things very, very, very seriously. Thank you very much, everyone. And that's all I want to share with me today and with you today. If you wish to do a journey with me, you can visit my website at josephbradleyroars.com. You can visit my Northern Light page at, I got mixed up what I was going to say. AmandRostAwakening.com is a site you can visit. You can visit my website to book a session with me, and Joseph Bradley Roars is my Northern Light page. Sorry, when you do journeys, sometimes you get a little lightheaded. Anyway, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.